Hello and welcome to the Military History Club's Great Battle in 10 Minutes feature. Today I'm going to be talking about the four-day Battle of the Marne, which raged from the 6th to the 9th of September 1914 and helped to prevent a lightning German victory over the British and the French. The key moment was at 2 p.m. on the 5th of September when General Joffre, the French commander-in-chief, arrived at the headquarters of his British counterpart, Field Marshal Sir John French, in the Château de Vaux-le-Pénil, south of the River Marne. Ushered into a small room, Joffre put his cap on the table, faced the British commander, and thanked him for taking a decision, agreeing to join the French in a counterattack that would settle the fate of Europe. Joffre then proceeded to outline his plan of attack, known as Instruction Générale Numéro 6, for the following day. The Sixth Army would cross the Orc River in the direction of Château Thierry. The British Expeditionary Force, or BEF, was to advance east towards Montmirail. The Fifth Army was to turn north, though not until it had linked up with the BEF, and the Ninth Army was to protect the Fifth's flank. Joffre was ready to throw his last company into the battle to save France, he told Sir John, but he needed the full support of the BEF. Clasping Sir John's hands powerfully in his, he concluded, "Field Marshal, it is France that you are helping." Overcome with emotion, Sir John seemed lost for words, as tears stained his flushed cheeks. At last, turning to his liaison officer, he exclaimed, "Damn it, I can't explain. Tell him that all men can do, our fellows will do." When Sir John's chief of staff then intervened to say that the BEF could not start its advance as early as the French commander wished, Joffre was unperturbed. "It cannot be helped," he said, shrugging his shoulders. "Let them start as soon as they can. I have the Marshal's word. That is enough for me." For the previous 2 weeks, ever since the Battle of Mons, the Allied armies in Belgium and northeastern France had been in retreat. So little did Sir John French trust the French after the events of the 23rd, when the neighbouring French army had withdrawn without informing the BEF, and so serious did he regard his losses at Mons and a second major action at Le Cateau on the 26th of August, where British casualties were 8,000, that at one point he refused to take part in an Allied counterattack. Worse still, on the 30th, he informed General Joffre that the battered BEF needed to retire behind the Seine to refit and would not return to the battle for at least 10 days. Only Lord Kitchener's personal intervention on the 1st of September had kept the BEF in the front line, much to Sir John French's fury and Joffre's relief. Meanwhile, on the 31st of August, Joffre had learned from intercepted signals and aerial reconnaissance that General von Kluck's First Army on the German right was now marching to the east and not the west of Paris. Thus developed in Joffre's mind the possibility of taking Kluck's army in the flank. He knew the German troops were exhausted after 5 weeks of constant marching and fighting and were at the end of their supply lines. His soldiers, on the other hand, were drawing closer to their supply depots, and he had been able to use France's excellent transverse railways to move troops from the right of his line to form a new Sixth Army of 9 infantry and 2 cavalry divisions under General Michael Joseph Mernery on the outskirts of Paris. The only fly in the ointment was Sir John French. Would he, or would he not, let the BEF take part in the coming offensive? Joffre received his answer at the historic meeting on the 5th. Though there was some fighting that evening near the River Orc, the main Allied offensive did not begin until the following day. It was the start of a 4-day swirling battle that became known as the Miracle of the Marne. At first, an Allied victory seemed unlikely, as a series of assaults against the centre and the flanks of the German position were repulsed. On the 7th of September, it was Kluck's turn to attack Minory's Sixth Army with 2 corps that had been force-marched from his left wing. But for desperate measures by General Gallieni, the commander of the Paris garrison, who used taxicabs to send more than 2,000 reinforcements to Minory's assistance, the Germans might have broken through on the 7th. Elsewhere, the situation was more favourable for the Allies, as the transfer of 2 corps from Kluck's left wing had opened up a dangerous gap between the German First and Second Armies, the latter commanded by General von Bülow, into which the BEF marched. Even so, the Germans might still have stabilised the situation had not their Chief of the General Staff, Helmut von Moltke, lost his nerve. Stationed in Luxembourg, and out of contact with his army commanders, von Moltke sent a staff officer, Colonel Hensch, to assess the situation. Hensch had the authority to order a retreat if he felt the forward armies were losing contact with each other, and that was the conclusion he came to when he reached Bullard's headquarters and learned of the British advance. He agreed with Bullard that the Second Army would retreat if the BEF crossed the Marne. It did so on 9 September, triggering not only the Second Army's withdrawal, but also that of the First. 2 days later, Moltke ordered the Third, Fourth, and Fifth Armies to retreat as well. The failure of the Schlieffen Plan caused its co-author to suffer a nervous breakdown. He was replaced on the 14th of September by the War Minister, Erich von Falkenhayn, who acted in both capacities until the following January, when he relinquished the political post to his deputy. The Germans fell back to the 500 feet high Chemin de Dam ridge beyond the River Aisne, a defensive position that Moltke had earlier identified as naturally strong. To make it more so, the German infantry and field engineers were ordered to dig trenches and protect them with parapets, a skill they had regularly practiced while on peacetime manoeuvres. On the 14th of September, Joffre ordered a general attack on the ridge, but only in the British sector did it almost succeed. The 1st Division on the right gained ground, noted General Haig in his diary, but could not maintain itself in the face of the opposition encountered. Only in the centre, the 5th Brigade, moving along the eastern slopes of the Bone Ridges, was able to get forward and to continue its advance until it reached the ridge, about Tilly de Courtasson. In the dark, General Hakin failed to get in touch with the 1st Division, but his patrols found German outposts on both flanks. He consequently drew back his troops under cover of darkness to the neighbourhood of Verneuil. I think it is very likely, wrote Sir John French on the 14th, that the enemy is making a determined stand on the Aisne. That evening he ordered his men to dig in. The BEF did not remain long on the Aisne. In October it was sent north into Flanders as part of a series of operations known as the Race to the Sea, with both the Allies and the Germans trying, and failing, to outflank each other before the trench lines connected up from Switzerland to the Channel coast. Thereafter, the BEF held various sectors, originally in Flanders and Artois, but later extending as far south as the Somme, of the Allied front line that ran for 475 miles in the shape of a reversed S from Nieuport in Belgium to the Swiss border. It was a trench line that, despite countless offensives and the loss of million soldiers, would barely alter for much of the next 3.5 years. That was all in the future. In early September 1914, the fate of France hung in the balance. The German strategy of risking all on a rapid victory in the west before turning to deal with the Russians seemed close to paying off. It all hinged on Joffre's counterattack, planned for 6 September, and that in turn depended on Sir John French's response to his emotional appeal for British assistance on the 5th. Fortunately for the Allies, that appeal succeeded, and within days the miracle of the Marne had turned the tide. President Raymond Poincaré of France justly acknowledged the part that both French and British troops played in the victory in a letter of congratulation to the French Minister of War on 11 September. Far from being fatigued by long weeks of marching and unceasing battle, he wrote, our troops have shown more endurance and keenness than ever. With the vigorous assistance of our English allies, they have forced back the enemy to the east of Paris, and the brilliant successes they have gained and the magnificent qualities they have shown are sure guarantees of decisive victories. Thank you.